Deniero, Hizzolla.com. We got an exclusive for you guys, something special this time around. We got the exclusive horror, thriller author, the multi-talented writer, Angela Dungee-Farley on deck today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go check her out today on Hizzolla. You're gonna get a chance to get deep details of your favorite author and see how she gets it down and how she puts it down in writing for you guys. Let's check it out. Hizzolla.
Hello.
Hey, look what we have here.
Come on in.
The one and only.
Enter one of my inspiration rooms right here.
Yes, yes.
Come on in.
How's it going?
Not bad. Good to see you.
Yes.
Welcome. Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone out there in TV land.
Multi-talented author.
Yes.
See, Hizzolla gets you the exclusive.
Yes.
So how's everything going?
Everything is good. I've been waiting anxiously for you to come. I'm excited to share my books and information about me and my upbringing with everyone.
Yes,
so
yes.
I have everything set and ready for you.
Y'all ready, guys? Let's get it.
Hi.
All right,
Come on in.
Come check it out. You have 3 books here, I see.
Yes, I have 3 books that are published. I have at least 6 that I've already written that are ready for publication, but these three have already been published, and the outpouring for more is coming in very strong.
All right, all right. And what do you have here?
Actually, I have here my first 3 books that have been published out of the 6 or 7 I've already written. The first one that came out is Mamba. This one came out in 2011. My second book, Prosper Flyers, came out in 2012. And my third one is about to come out the next week is Columbarium Condemned Souls.
Wow. Do you guys see this? This is inspiration to me by itself. See, you have also, not only that, she works along with me in the government hospital. See, these are educated people, man, and that's ready to do things with their life and for others, and doing these things for you guys and entertaining your thoughts.
Yes.
And as far as your books, they're mostly like you do detail.
Actually, most of my my books are horror in nature, but they have so many other aspects in them. They have horror, they have humor, they're scary, they have thriller scenes, and even comedy scenes. So with science fiction also, when you write a book that falls under scary or thriller, you still have to have those elements of what I consider factual meeting fictional, which no matter how much fiction you have in a book, you still have to have some degree of factual details also, and you will find a lot of that in these 3 books.
You see that? It takes a lot of research. Even, you know, you write a book, but you have to research the things you write about.
Actually, because it's an injustice to write about an animal or creature as wonderful as the mamba and not provide the reader with the details that are actual in conjunction with the details that are not fabricated but fictional.
See? Not only are you scared and it tackles your imagination, but there's facts involved also.
A lot of education, a lot of research it takes to write these books and put them together.
All right, so I got some questions here that you know all the fans out there want to know, so we're going to make sure we capture everything live here. We don't want to miss anything. I mean, this is a multi-talented author. You're going to get up close and personal with her right now. So, I mean, when did you start first writing these books, and was this something that inspired you?
Well, I started writing in 2008. I never had an aspiration at all for writing. I never wrote a thing in my life. I never took a writing class. I always knew one thing, and that's that I loved horror. So one day in 2008, in August, actually, like we're in August right now, I had a thought, not even an idea, a thought, that I love horror so much, I would love one day to contribute to the horror genre. And that's what I ended up doing. 2 or 3 days later, I picked up a pencil and a piece of paper, and I started to put down the details that I wanted to put into this book, and the rest was history.
Wow. See, when you think ahead, this is the future. This is what brings you the future. You got to plant that seed and go all the way. All right. So what inspired you to write the first, second, and third published book? And tell me a little bit about each one.
Okay, my first book, Mamba. What inspired me was a 1981 movie called Venom, where there were people who were hostages in a row house in England, and unbeknown to them, a black mamba was on the prowl. And ever since I saw that movie, I was extremely interested in that particular snake. And that's how I came to write this book.
And heavy research, don't forget.
Heavy research.
Told you, heavy research. All right. Oh, wow. Now, you can see from the cover of this book. Whoa. Tell me what inspired you to write this book.
Crossville Flyers. The name Crossville comes from this little city I lived in a little neighboring town, Prospect, Virginia, and Farmville, Virginia. So I took half of Prospect and half of Farmville and made Crossville. And as a child, I was terrified of what we had in the South that were called flying squirrels. They didn't actually fly, they glided. So what I did was I did extensive research on those particular creatures, and then I did a little evolution with them and did some critiquing, and this is what I came out with. So this was a passionate book for me because a lot of the details are my hometown. So that's how this book came to be.
Don't worry about, guys. We're going to let her read a little bit of, from the back. Just a little,
Yes.
just for y'all to hear and feel a little bit. But
Just
y'all
to get
gonna
you
have to read it
interested.
yourself. We got you. Don't worry about it.
Yes, indeed.
And let's talk about this book.
Columbarium. Columbarium came out of research for another book that I'm working on. Whereas I needed to do research into how do the rich bury their loved ones. I was familiar with crypts and I was familiar with mausoleums. But as I was doing my research, I came across Columbarium. And though it's not only where the rich bury theirs, everyone can. It's a matter of, the cremated ashes and the urn and the placement. Well, this book starts in the 16th century in 1780, and it comes into our century, the 21st century. And it is very, very frightening, and I would be more than glad to share a little bit of it with you.
You got you, Hizzolla. All right. So why horror, thriller, and suspense genre? Do you see yourself writing another genre?
I see myself writing science fiction. I'm really looking forward to writing science fiction, and my son, who's only 7 years old, Daniel, who you'll meet later, really inspired me to write one that I'm writing right now. People will often tell me that I have the other genres in my books already in terms of the horror already, of course, and humor in a lot of them, and suspense.
Yeah.
To write a book that's exclusively suspense or any other genre other than horror, I don't know right now, but I definitely, with every single scary/horror book I write, do put those elements in.
Oh, and I love science. Science just plays with your mind, and then in the future, it really comes true.
Yes, it does.
All right. So the manuscript format versus novel format.
Why that one? Whenever I'm writing a novel, very often, because it's in quotes and then you have to quote it, unquote it, sometimes I lose track of who's speaking. So in order to avoid that, what I do is the script format, whereas I have highlighted who is speaking at all times, and then in italic I have what they're saying, and then in just normal print I have narration. So a lot of my readers said, I found it a little odd at first, but as I've read your books, I love it because I always know where I am and I always know who's speaking throughout your stories. So that's why I opt to write my books that way.
That's cool too, because you get into the character, and when anything happens to them, you feel the pain also.
And my books have scenes, so it helps the readers that they're moving from one scene to the next, and in each scene they know exactly where they are, and as I said, the characters are in bold, so they can always follow the dialogue.
Follow your favorite character.
Yes.
All right. So how do you start your books? Let's talk about that.
How do I start my books? Well, first of all, I find one subject that I'm really, really interested in, and then I write my plots. I always write my plots before I write my characters. Once I write my plots, I insert my characters. So instead of my plots being written around my characters are written around my plots. And that's how I write my books.
All right, so you might be one of the plots soon. All right. So who do you write your books for? Who's your targeted audience?
My targeted audience is always the horror reader and the hardcore horror readers. But what I have found is that I have an inkling to go after those who say, I don't like horror, I'm afraid of it, I can't read it. Those are my big customers I'm going after. And you'd be surprised that so many people who have supported me are not horror readers, and they would say, Angela, I really don't read them, but because you're a good friend, I'll get it. And then later on, they say, oh my goodness, I loved it. When's the next one coming? So it's for everyone, those who love it and those who do not yet know they do.
Yeah, that's the key. The key is to catch you guys while you're sleeping.
Yes.
Make you read that book. All right. And in what order do you write your books? For example, beginning, middle, and end in order opposite, like?
Basically, my books are beginning, middle, and end. But a book that I'm writing right now, I started with the middle actually. Then I wrote the end, and now I'm writing the beginning.
So you mean that's book number 4?
Book number 4.
Book
yes.
number 4. Look at this. And y'all thought this was it. She's already
No,
on book
number
4.
So very often, basically, I will be beginning, middle, and end. But this particular book, for some reason, I started at the middle, wrote the end, and now I'm finished at the beginning.
Ah,
So it could go either way. Sometimes, there could be times it could be the beginning and the end, and then the middle.
It's like cooking.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Do you always know how your books are gonna end while you're doing it?
This particular book, I did not know. This particular book, I had an idea. And this particular one, I knew. So very often, perhaps because this was the first one, I didn't. But sometimes I know how they're going to end. And that's not because I planned it that way, but it's because it just follows whatever's going on at the beginning and the middle. By the time I'm coming to the end, I know that some of those elements that I used at the beginning, I need, and they play a very big part in the ending.
Wow, so it's like you having fun while you writing. It's like you creating the vision.
Yes.
You know how addictive that could be? Like,
Very.
All right. Okay, so what keeps you writing? Talking about addiction.
What keeps me writing? Oh my God, to be a serious writer, anyone would tell you you have to write every day, which I do. I write every day, basically sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day, depending on if it's weekdays or weekends. What keeps me writing is not just my passion and love for horror and scary and everything else that you will find in there, but my readers. There's sometimes as a writer where you get to a point where you ask yourself, what and why am I doing this? And when one of your readers come to you and say, I'm looking for the next one. Oh my goodness, that one was so great. Put me on your list. Don't forget me. Make sure I get one. That's what keeps me writing.
Motivation.
Yes.
You see, you guys are heavy motivating to all of us, because the more you guys want, the more we have to develop.
Yes.
We don't get to relax.
Not at all.
Never.
No.
Everything is for you.
Yes, it is.
All right. What are a few key elements that are imperative when you're writing your books?
The most important element, the most imperative element is research. You have to research your character. You have to research all of your facts in terms of the creature or the entity or whatever it is you're writing about. And you also have to research for accuracy, for dates, for architectural development. Anything that goes into a book that's factual, that truly does exist, you have to know it back and forth, because you never know who's researching your book. You never know if a herpetologist or a zoologist is reading your book and some of your facts are questionable. So research of these species and their true nature is more important than anything else. That's where your factual meets your fictional. Other things that are imperative is that you develop characters that are real, that breathe, that people can believe in, that they're educated or whatever, or hardworking people like all of us are. They cannot be sticks. They cannot just be character number 1, 2, 3. They have to have names. They have to have personalities. They have to have backgrounds. And those are the two most, for me, important elements of writing these books.
So develop characters that relate to the readers.
Yes. Yes.
So you guys, she's breaking it down. You will never get this from anyone else. She's breaking it down.
The
this
secrets
is the formula
to writing.
to writing. Like, come on, guys. All right. So, what is it like being a Black African American female horror writer? Because a lot of women, they scared of horror, but you get to create it.
To be perfectly honest with you, my family and friends did not even know I was writing until after this book was completed and ready for publication. And actually, when I shared the information with people, I would say, I have a book coming out, I've written a book, and they would say, really? Great, what is it? And I would just go like, it's a horror. I don't know, I always did that. I felt self-conscious about telling people that, because other than myself and a few other people, I don't know anyone who really, really loves horror. And now when I introduce myself to people and what I sell, what my brand is, I'm like, I'm a horror writer.
Exactly.
So it's a wonderful thing now. It's a wonderful thing.
Because it's up to guys like you to just like inspire people to want to, get into the horror genre. Just make you want to read it, because you guys know you love going out see them horror movies and everything.
And it's something about being afraid. Everyone, even whether you know it or not, it's something about being scared, and that's what I tried to convey here.
You're right. You're right. It brings the kid out of you.
Yes, it does.
All right. So, were there any frightening moments for you, being that your books basically fall under horror and scary? How well are your books received?
As I said before, my books have been received very, very well. I think it's because I give so much and I make it so interesting that I had one person say to me, you know, I haven't read your second book yet because I know once I pick it up, I can't put it down until I finish the whole story. And until I have a few hours during the day to do that, I'm holding on, but keep them coming. So that's what it's been like for
so,
me.
You know, once you read her books, you're going to be
You're
on that
hooked.
mailing list for the next
Once
one.
you read the book, you're hooked.
Yes. All right. So, what future do you see for blacks in horror?
I see a very promising future for blacks for horror and horror.
And particularly women.
And for women also. There are some out there. There are African American women out there who do write horror. A lot of them have been an inspiration for me. And when I started this, I had not done that research. But then after I had written Mom, but then I started to say, I know there are more of me out there. And when I did my research, I came across a couple of women. And reading a lot of their books and learning about them has been a big inspiration for me. So yes, there's definitely a future in horror for women of my color, definitely.
All right, now. It's up to you guys to keep it up, the generations, pick it up.
Yes, there
We're
is.
giving you all the jewels now, and you can learn from the master.
Yes.
All right. What is your biggest mistake you ever made since starting this journey?
The biggest mistake I ever did, according to my good friend Randy Everett, hi Randy, is to limit the branding of myself by saying I simply write horrors. She said there's so much more to my books than horror. There are true stories, there's dialogue, there's intellect, there's thriller, there is suspense, there's humor. So branding myself as strictly a horror writer, I think I'm going to branch out a little bit more in that title, and that's what she told me to consider. She said because sometimes people are afraid of horror, they're afraid to take the chance because they think it's horror. But if they understand it's more than horror, then they would take the plunge and really look into the books.
You already know. You know, she said she's getting into the science.
Yes,
so
indeed.
prepare for like a Matrix book coming out. All right. I want to star in it too.
Yes, of course.
All right. So, is it ever difficult to write? Do you ever get like writer's block? You know.
I have never had writer's block. But what I do sometimes is like I said, I write my plots before I do anything else. Sometimes I'm stuck with what plot I'm going to put in next. A lot of times I'm on the steps and a scene is finished. Do I go to that plot or this plot next? So the only thing I have is that because I write several plots, it could be 10, 20, 30 plots. I may not necessarily use all of them, but placing them throughout the story is the only thing that sometimes I have a little block at. I give myself a day or two, and when I go back to it, it's just like that. I know it's going to come next.
So that's the formula of the block. You're around the block, pick up the play. All right. So, how do you pay homage to and in the world of horror, thriller, suspense, science, and fiction in writing?
There's a lady, her name was Octavia Butler. She's passed away now, but she was a science fiction writer. And I looked to her and I looked at her success with all the books she wrote, and she's the one who I really feel is one of the main people who paved the way for many after her and for me also. So yes, Octavia Butler.
Octavia Butler, thank you from all of us. All right. So it is. Any tips you would like to give anyone interested in the horror, thriller, suspense genre?
In horror, there are evolutions like in any other topic of writing, where there's sometimes the werewolf, the vampire, the zombies. What you have to do is you have to be futuristic. You have to look at what's out now, look at what's may be coming in the future. Research is always imperative. And then what you feel inside, if you have an idea, run with it. It may not make sense to you, or it may make sense to you and you may think it may not make sense to others, but take the chance. Just go for it.
There you go. You heard it from me. All right. Where can we get your books? That's most importantly. Like, we heard about them, where can we get them?
My books are available on Barnes & Nobles, Amazon.com, and also on the international market. So you go onto Amazon, you look up if it's easier for you, you can look up Dungee-Farley, and all my books that are there will pop up. You can go inside of Barnes & Nobles, go to the register, let them know what you're looking for, and they can place the order and have it come in for you. And if you just go on the international market, then you go on the Amazon on there also, and you can find my books.
Right. All right. So we got where the books are located at. We got a lot of questions and everything answered and all the secrets into writing books and everything. So now you know, you have to get the Hizzolla exclusive. So we're gonna let her read just a little bit from each book so you guys could get an idea of where she's coming from in each element of her writing. So pick a book. Would you like to read first?
Well, let's start with the first one, Mamba.
All right.
Scene 12, near the exit door. At the opposite end of the building, Mr. Haywood is again attempting to punch in the correct key code in order to exit the building. He says, "Hell, let me take out these distance, as they call them, reading glasses and get the heck out of here." With his left hand, he reaches into the right chest pocket of his jacket and retrieves his eyeglasses. He holds them out in front of him and looks through them while punching in the code. He says, "I think I have it this time." He suddenly stops, sensing that he's not alone. Being true to its nature, Mamba slithers up behind Mr. Haywood. He stands there, still, very still, aware that something, or worse, someone is behind him. Mr. Haywood continues to stand at attention, one hand on the keyboard, the other hand holding his eyeglasses at a distance. Mr. Haywood could hear what sounds like a heavy hissing, and then he feels something crawl up his leg, over his thigh, and up and around his torso, proceeding to just behind his right shoulder. But he's too afraid to move. Now, through the reflection of his eyeglasses, he's able to see, with disbelief, what has descended upon him. Mr. Haywood now has a reflection of himself in the left eyeglass lens, and in the right, a reflection of Mamba. He has now come face to face with his assassin. Mr. Haywood drops his eyeglasses, and as any terrified human would do, he panics and reacts, reaching to pull Mamba away, but his attempt is futile. He's not fast enough, and Mamba wraps his head around and sticks his fangs into Mr. Haywood's throat, and the struggle begins. Blood drains down Mr. Haywood's chest, and then as the two struggle, Mr. Haywood's head slams into the keyboard, destroying it, making it impossible for the door to now open. The two continue to struggle, and the electrical box is destroyed, causing the lights to temporarily go off. This also affects the lights in the conference room, leaving everyone wondering why the lights have gone out. As the battle continues, Mr. Haywood struggles to pull Mamba off and to break the snake's grip on his throat. But Mr. Haywood is no match for Mamba, who's determined to bring his victim down. Eventually, a defeated Mr. Haywood loses momentum, struggles, and slowly drops to the floor behind a stack of boxes, with Mamba's fangs deadlocked in his throat. Once Mamba's lifeless victim drops to the floor, it releases its grip and victoriously slithers away. This new breed of Mamba is a true adversary to man. It does not hunt man as a natural instinct of survival, but as a warrior. The days of humbly slithering away as man approaches to avoid confrontation is obviously a thing of the past.
All right, I hope you guys ain't getting scared yet, because we got 2 more books. Which book would you like to read for them next?
Oh, we should go in order. Next one will be Prosville Flyers, number 2.
All right, now.
Scene 25, Old Man Hillard's dilapidated farm. Old Man Hillard has just stepped out of his house onto his porch. He's wearing coveralls, a plaid shirt, a coat, and a hat, and he's carrying a cup of coffee in his hand. He takes a seat and begins to sip at his coffee, taking in the fresh air. As he's sitting comfortably, he thinks he's hearing something. He looks around, but disregards it as nothing and continues with his cup of coffee. A second or so later, he hears something again, and this time he's curious. He sits quietly on the porch, waiting to see if this unfamiliar sound occurs again. It does. It's a squirking noise coming from the direction of his old, dilapidated wooden barn. Old Man Hillard sets his cup of coffee down and proceeds in the direction of the barn. Once he's reached the barn, he enters slowly, cautiously, moving quietly about, casing the area, but to no avail. He is unable to find any evidence of anyone or anything in the barn. Just when he's decided that perhaps he didn't hear anything or that it was just his imagination, the squirking sound starts again. It's coming from all directions above his head, up in the rafters. But he's unable to see anything because of the lack of lighting and the small pieces of debris falling down from the ceiling. Old Man Hillard is now becoming agitated and, of course, angry. He speaks. "What's up there? You better get the hell out of my rafters." A load of feces drops down on him. Well, he's really angry now, angry enough to do anything to get revenge. Old Man Hillard is very cantankerous and has been known to drink hard liquor and get into fights in his day, and hold his own when doing so. So he's not about to let whatever is up there get the best of him. He's frantically mad now. He says, so you think you're smart, huh? Well, let's see how smart you are when your asses are burning up. Think you can come into my barn and do whatever you want to? Well, you're about to see what Hillard can do. He walks over to a corner in the barn and picks up a gasoline can. Then he takes the top off the can, grabs a bale of hay, and tosses it with the gasoline until it's thoroughly saturated. He says, you can all burn in hell. He takes out a book of matches from his coverall pockets and strike it. It will not light, so he throws it to the ground. Still fuming and cursing, he pulls another match from the box and in slow motion strikes it, proceeding with the flame. Just then, from the rafters, a horde of squirrels lunges down upon him, landing exclusively on his posterior of his body, from his head down. He thrashes about, with the back of his back covered with squirrels, what looks to be hundreds of them. Having bitten through his clothing, they hold to his flesh. Swinging as he thrashes back and forth, it makes it look like he's wearing a fur cape. As this is unfolding, the barn goes up into flames, but old man Hillard, who manages to escape the flames, drops dead just beyond the barn door as a result of his injuries. The squirrels retreat, and old man Hillard lies in the dirt face down, dead, with injuries so severe they could be mistaken for burns, but we know they're not.
All right, last but not least, just getting warmed up. What do we have here now for the audience?
Columbarium, Condemned Souls.
All right, here goes your little sample.
She's exhausted and weak with fear, so she subdues to the fact that she's at his mercy. In the corner is an old surgical table, which appears from nowhere. Justine, who had been standing, is now magically on the table, strapped down. The surgeon is in a chair sitting next to her. He speaks. Tell me, young lady, what ails you? Justine is screaming, crying, and pleading to be released. Hush, he says, don't fret now. I've done these procedures hundreds of times. The surgeon is looking forward to getting back to work after being out of commission for over a century and a half. His first patient, being a young lady, pleases him. Young girls were his specialty. In his chair, he rose to the end of the table and puts his diabolical plan to work. Let's see what we have here, he says. Justine shivers from the touch of his ghostly hands, which feel like a cold whisper as they glide across her skin. As he spreads her legs, each one fall off the edge of the cold stainless steel table. From his flesh arsenal, he pulls and twists the vaginal spectrum from his flesh. The surgeon has been known to use this device to probe various body parts and cavities. Justine is weeping and praying. She's so afraid and exhausted that she faints. The surgeon speaks. Now, just relax. You won't feel a thing. As the surgeon utters these words, though still restrained, Justine's body goes into full extension spasm as if electricity went flowing through her like Frankenstein's monster. The surgeon is at work and he is enjoying his trade. Oops, did that hurt? He laughs. The surgeon has used the vaginal speculum to perform an exploratory procedure. He jams the speculum into Justine and uses the crank to expand the area, ripping into the vaginal wall. She screams from the pain he's inflicting on her. The surgeon says, okay, let's see if your baby is ready to be born. She screams, stop, no, I'm not having a baby. Please stop, you're killing me. The surgeon rips from his flesh the cervical dilator. Then he dives into her cervix and dilates the device beyond the measurements on the scale, resulting in profuse tearing and profound bleeding. Justine screams and cries as her tormentor continues to work. She is pale, cold, and fading fast. She stares out into the space, and in a low, solemn tone, she says, I am dying. As the blood drips to the floor, she turns her face to the side as not to be facing her executor when she dies. The life begins to float out of Justine's body, and the surgeon, without any remorse, simply says, there is no baby here. He laughs and slowly disappears.
All right, so you guys had that exclusive reading of each and every book. And you have a fourth book coming also.
I sure do. A fourth book coming at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. It's a book that my son, Deniero, back in 2010, at the age of 4, inspired me to write.
Wow.
So, with a few simple words he gave me, I went to work.
All right, where is he?
Oh, as a matter of fact, here he is here. Come on out,
All
Daniel.
right. Look at him. That's the next author coming up,
Next
too.
author. This is my son, Deniero-Farley. And we're not going to reveal the title of our book yet. Could you let the audience know those few simple words you told Mommy? They got the book started.
Yes, I will. Okay. There was a girl sitting on a bench waiting for the bus. Then something coming up from the pond. Was something coming up from the pond. It was getting closer and closer to the girl that almost touched her. And cuts.
Yes, you got to get the book to hear the rest. Can't get it all.
Look for it in December, Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
So we're going to have to turn these books into like a movie.
Oh, goodness,
You with the multi-talented Hizzolla, Spark Deniero too, so
Yes,
you
we
gotta,
will.
let's do it.
You'll do it.
We have to.
I'll always be available.
For the fans, we're going to create things just coming after you. Look out for all her books.
Many more on the horizon.
You already see it. We got Angela Dungee-Farley in the place to be. Inspiration.
Sign up to Hizzolla.com.
Like, when is a good time?
Now!
Now that's something to think about.